and there's a mimer that was talking about the idea of the achdus of the sukkah and also the achdus of the daled minim, and we started explaining that this achdus is also connected with the revelation that will be la'asid lavit, that la'asid lavit will also be lo'yalamdu ishas re'ehu. There will be complete achdus and there will be even the das will be the cause of the achdus, and there will not even be in the need of the Eibishter to be melamed us, to teach us. And then he concluded that the achdus and the avas Yisrael, the mitzvah v'ahavta l'reach kamoicha, is dependent upon the inyan of avas Hashem, and he brings like the Torah of the Alter Rebbe, that the Frierdiker Rebbe chazed it many times, as we know it's also now Yom Yom, etc. So now he's going to continue in a certain idea that we see about avas Hashem, and say this same idea in avas Hashem we can now apply also on the idea of avas Yisrael because of their relationship. So the last two lines on the third page of the printouts, page 13. The Sefer HaMarim Tafresh Lamed, it's known and explained at length in the Sefer HaMarim of Tafresh Lamed. Again, this was a mimer that was said on the Rebbe Rashab's yard site, so Marash's yard site. So therefore, he's bringing actually, interestingly, different things from the Rebbe Marash. So this is something else that he's bringing from the Rebbe Marash. The Indian, the Vahafta Savai concerning the mitzvah of Avos Hashem, and then the Rebbe says parenthetically, like from this is also understood concerning Avos Yisrael, this same idea that we're about to say by Avos Hashem. Sheyesh, top of the next page, but the base pirushim, there are two explanations in the words ve'ahavta es Hashem l'kech. And again, same thing, v'ahavta re'ach. Pirush aleph she'v'ahavta lashon sivui. The first explanation is that v'ahavta is from the expression of a command. It's something we are commanded to do. You have to love the Eibishter. The second thing, that it's an expression of a promise. The Eibishter is assuring us and promising us that we will love him. And again, by extension, he's assuring us that we will love another like ourselves. So this is actually quite a common thing. But the Rebbe is going to introduce another component of it. The idea that v'ahavta can be Lashon Tzivui or Lashon Havtacha, either a command or a promise, is depending which level of love you're talking about. There's a certain level of love where you can command, and a certain level of love which is something that's a promise. V'hainu, second line, there are two levels in love. Bechina Aleph, the first level is it's such a love that it's applicable to say a command about it. Ubchina Beis, in the second type of level of love, Ein Shayach the idea of a command does not apply. For Rak Havtacha, it's only a promise. Like the Rebbe Maharash explains over there in that Maimer, what level of love can you say v'ahavta means that we are commanded to do so? It's a love that comes because of and from emanating from the nefesh elokis. This love has a measure to it and has a boundary to it. Because the intention and the meaning of why does it say to love, who loyal atzma is not on the love itself, on this level of love that we're just now talking about. We're not talking about that the mitzvah is the love itself. The mitzvah is on the meditation that's going to bring you to the love. Okay, like it's known, the teaching of Mr. Magid, in Tafshin Lamed Daled, when the Rebbe said the Maimer, it was 200 years since the Istalchus of the Rebbe of the Mizritcher Magid, Shehiksha, that the Mizritcher Magid asked the famous question, how's it even possible to command someone to love? Ava, love is an emotion. How can you command someone to have a certain emotion? Either they have the emotion or not. The Tiritz and the Mizritcher Magid answered, the command is on the meditation. Concerning the idea of meditation, it's applicable the idea of a command. You should think into those matters that inspire and awaken the love. And then eventually this will lead him to love. So now, getting back to our topic, we're trying to say that the first level of love, the level of ahava, that it's applicable on it, a love that you can command, that's the ahava that's shaykh to the nefesh elokis. So he's saying, since this love comes through meditation, through thinking into godliness, it already has a level of a measure and a boundary to it, because it's dependent on how much I understand, how much I can delve into, how much I can appreciate. The more I understand, the greater and the more developed the love will be. The less I understand, the lesser the love will be. That's why when he's talking about in Tanya and Perek Yud Ches, he talks about the Ava Mesuteres, Mesiras Nefesh, and the Ava Mesuteres, that's shaykh even by Ktanim and Ami Oretz, because that has nothing to do with meditation. But in general, a lot of the Ahavas, or not in general, but many of the Ahavas that he talks about in Tanya, especially up till Perek Yud Ches, is the love that has to do based on meditation. That's dependent upon how much I know. There are people that don't know anything about the Eibishter to think about. Also, people don't have the capability to think that much. So anyway, there's different levels that a person can have to love, and it's all dependent upon how much I understand. And then there comes a level where even the greatest mind can only reach so far in the understanding of the Eibishter. So therefore, their love is limited to how far their intellect can appreciate something. But that level of love that concerning it says, you shall love, and it's in the way of a promise. It's a love that is beyond measure and boundary. And primarily it's the love of the first parsha of Krishma. It's the love that's with all your might, that's beyond any measure and boundary. So therefore, it's something that we're being promised to do that. It's nothing that we can do about it. But you'll soon see what that means. It's nothing we can do about it. Meaning it's not something that's derived from the nefesh elokis, rather from something in a way outside of our realm, the nefesh habahamis. He says, since the general idea of being beyond measure and boundary is in the world of Tayum, so be able to arrive at this love, it's insufficient avoida from the perspective of the godly soul. One needs rather the avoida from the perspective of the animal soul. Why so? What is it about the nefesh habahamis that can reach beyond measure and boundary? If it's somewhere, if it's a type of love that even nefesh elokis cannot reach, what does it mean nefesh habahamis can reach over there? I think I skipped a line. Let's go back to footnote 33, where it says over there inside the text. Again, maybe I didn't skip it. Since the general idea of being beyond measure and boundary comes from the world of Tayum, therefore to come to this love, it's insufficient to avoid it. That's from the godly soul's perspective. The animal soul, because the nefesh habahamis is source is from olam hatoyu, and because of that, when you have the nefesh habahamis on board, so then you can have a love that is beyond boundaries. The general difference between toyu and tikkun is in toyu the lights were many, but the vessels were few. And tikkun, they are few lights and much vessels. What does that mean? What's the concept behind that? So there's going to be an interesting takeover here in this mimer as well. I think it's a little bit unique over what we've learned in other mamar. And the explanation of this is though also in the world of Toyu there's the idea of Kalim. Why does it have to be Kalim? Maybe there's no Kalim. Why they are Kalim after. The only way there could be the revelation of light is only through Kalim. Just like fire cannot exist in our plane without having some type of anchor, some type of wick, some type of flammable, combustible material that holds the fire in place and causes the fire to be revealed in our world. The same thing, any place where there's Gilui Oid, there must be some type of Keli over there. It cannot be without any Kalim whatsoever. But in what manner are the Kalim in Toyu? But still, in all Mekal Makim, HaKalim, the Toyu, and Kalim Moatim, the Kalim of Toyu, are very few. What does it mean, very few? We're not talking about numbers. We're talking about their state, their characteristic, their style is of a very limited, small way. Hainu Shem b'miut, they are small. U'bibitl, and they are nullified. In other words, the Kalim do not come out there being in control of the Oidus, but rather they are bottled to the Oidus, and what's mainly manifest is the Oid, regardless of the Kalim. Therefore the light shown over there in the world of Toyu as it is, without any constrictions, without any limitations, in a way, in other words, of Bligvul. As opposed to tikkun, it's in an opposite order. Oidus mu'atim, v'kelim arubim. There are few oidus and much kelim. The pirish oidus mu'atim, who using the same idea. What does it mean, few oidus? It's not a quantity thing, but a quality thing. Sha oidus hem b'miut u'bitol ala kelim. That the oidus are less and in a state of bitol to the kelim. Therefore, though in tikkun, the revelation is from the oidus and not from the kelim itself, because that's where every gilui emanates from, but it is still concealed, as we'll soon say, through the kelim. Still in all, since the oidus are few and nullified to the kelim, therefore the revelation that comes down from the light is the way it is from the perspective of the kelim. What is more evident, or what's more in overcoming, is the kelim overcomes more the oidus. Similar to the revelation of the sun through its case, through its sheath, that the nartik, the case, the sheath that covers over the sun, it like balabat of it rules over, it controls what type of emanation will come out of the sun. The same thing, the kelim in tikkun control and limit the oidus. So nefesh elokis comes from tikkun, nefesh habahamis comes from toyu. So in their way of doing avodah, it reflects their source. That's the difference between the love that comes from the perspective of the godly soul, to the love that comes through the avodah from the perspective of nefesh bahamis, the nefesh alekis in yon hu tikkun, that godly soul, that its idea of the world of tikkun. Its love is limited and bounded, just like the kalim limit and control and constrict the oil that's in it. The canal, and like we said earlier, that the love is sha'ava zu boides bonus. This love comes through meditating in the Eibishter, and when a love is based on meditation, therefore this love, and therefore it's measured and limited and bounded according to the intellect. As opposed to the love that comes through the service with the nefesh bahamis, though also it is called a measure from the word, it's called a midah, and midah is from the word measured and limited. So seemingly, it's also a midah. It's a midah of the nefesh bahamis. Av is a midah, even the nefesh bahamis. And if it's a midah means measurement. Still in all, it's beyond measure and boundary. So now the Rebbe says an interesting thing. This doesn't mean that to evoke a love for Hashem and Nefesh Bahamis, we're not using our mind. Chabad is crucial. Chassidus Chabad is always about bringing the mind into the equation to awaken the love. The Gam Kasha Betchilahi Boides Bonus, though initially it comes through meditation, after the meditation brings about the emotion, that the emotion is completely above and beyond what the intellect evoked. In other words, the intellect was only a trigger, but once it was triggered, now it's like above and beyond the intellect. In other words, we can see an example. A lot of times, good examples for the nefesh bahamis is to look at a child, a young child. A young child can have a reason, let's say, to be sad about something. They got a cut, chas v'sholom, their toy broke, whatever it is. And they're sad. But all of a sudden, if they start crying, let's say, then they let loose. And then the sadness, even in their small mind, but they understand how they're supposed to be sad, is completely above and beyond exaggerated what they were supposed to be sad about. Sometimes they'll even lose track of what they were sad about. That's why it's sometimes even possible to confuse them with something else and entertain them with something else and remove their mind from it. Because the idea, the reason, the tam v'das left, it's only the emotion. The emotion broke through. And that's the way nefesh bahamis works also. You trigger it, you get it excited about elikus, and then it just lets forth a love that's beyond the trigger. And then the Rebbe says, sometimes you don't even need any type of meditation, even initially. Sometimes it could like burst forth on its own. Now we're going to bring this back to our topic, B'negeh Sukkos, B'negeh the Lulav and Esrog. To be able to arrive at this love, the love that one doesn't need any type of that's beyond the limitations of nefesh alekis. Ain't a maspek avoid of nefesh alekis. It's insufficient just to avoid of the godly soul. Kim tzarich lias havoida bedavar gashmi. There needs to be the service and the work in the physical item. Beyesh, you need to deal with the yesh, top of page 15. B'nefesh bahamis, with the animal soul. Shebehem davki yesh ne'amoitzit bi'avayda toyu. That specifically in the nefesh bahamis, there's the moitzit pi'avaya of the world of toyu. It says, Ki lo alechem levada yichya adam. Not on bread alone does a person live, but rather al moitzit pi'avaya. What comes out of the mouth of Hashem. As far as the nefesh bahamis is life. What is the moitzit pi'avaya of the nefesh bahamis? That is the moitzit pi'avaya that comes from the world of toyu. Even after it comes down in them, through a descent and through falling, it is much light and few vessels. V'hainu shakli hu ba'oifen the miutu bitol, that the vessel in the nefesh habahamis is in a way that's few and nullified canal. So that is the way the moitzi piavaya of the world of Toyu manifests in the nefesh habahamis. Now, obviously, you need to have some interaction with the nefesh halakis, or else nefesh habahamis is going to go off to things that have nothing to do with kedusha. Through the godly soul being involved with the animal soul to refine it, through that, the nefesh habahamis goes up to its source and its root. Through that it arrives to a love that's beyond measure and boundary. And on this love, the idea of a command, like we said before, a love that's beyond measure and boundary, you can't command, you can't say on it, v'hafta lashon tzivui. Inyan tzivui al yizbonos kanal, because the idea of a command is, like we said before, for something that you can meditate. So, and since it's not applicable, the idea of meditation, it's not even possible, even the most highest is bonus, to be over here in this case, the love that's beyond measure and boundary. Therefore, it's not possible about this, the idea of a command, but rather it's a promise. And he's going to connect this soon with the Gashmias of Sukkot, etc. Any questions before we paragraph 15? This is also the reason why, through the descent of the neshama into the body, it becomes a traveler. We know that the neshama, the way it's above, before it descends down here below into this world, into the body, it's called standing. Like the Navi said, I swear by Hashem, the God of Yisrael, that I stood before him, and that standing before him is referring to the neshama when it was above, that it's called standing. As opposed after it's descent down here below, it becomes a traveler, like it says, I will make you a traveler amongst these standers. These are standing still. How come? Because the physical has to do with tayu, and that breaks through all boundaries. In other words, standing still means limited. Traveling means going. There's no limit to my going. Through the avoid of Torah, studying fulfillment of mitzvahs, specifically down here in the physical world, so the great lights of Torah come down, the way they are bound up with the avoid of tikkun, and therefore it's the tikkun influences it, but essentially at its core it's a toyudika type of light. So now, like I said before, he's going to bring this back to the mitzvah of Daled Minim. That's also what it says, you shall take for you on the first day, meaning the first day of Sukkot. Specifically, we have to take physical 4 species. Though there was a beforehand the spiritual avoid of Yom Kippur. And there was also the spiritual avoid of the 4 days between Yom Kippur and Sukkot. So what else is there to add? So he says, because specifically through our avoid with the physical, so that's where it's nimshochem ha'oris merubim the tayu. That's where it comes down the great lights of tayu. That's also the idea that a person has to be involved in making his sukkah. Though the schach of the sukkah is explained, we spoke about this, is the same idea of the cloud of the Torahs, the incense that filled up the entire room of the Kodesh HaKadoshim. And the cloud of the incense offering is the most highest type of avodah. In all the 3 levels of world, in other words, space, and year, which means time, and soul and person. It took place in the holiest place in Olam, in the world, the Holy of Holies. And it took place in the holiest time of the year of Yom Kippurim, Shana, and the entire year was in the Yom Kippur. And who was the person that did it? Vayda Kohen Gadol, through the Kohen Gadol, which is the holiest level in Nefesh. So, why do we need to go further? Why take this Ananak Toiris and bring it further into the Schach of the Sukkah? What can be better? We have the Ananak Toiris. We don't need the Sukkah anymore. There has to be afterwards being involved in the Sukkah. Because the avodah of the cloud of the Ktoiras is primarily a spiritual avodah. Therefore, he has to be involved in the Sukkah, in the physical. That's the main thing in the physical world, because in the physical is where we're going to draw down from the world of Tayu. And because we draw down from the world of Tayu, then you're able to reach to a level that's beyond boundary whatsoever. So, if so, why Sukkah and Lulav? Like we learned also before. Sukkah only draws us down through it, brings it down in the physical world, but it only brings it down in a transcendent way, in a makivdik way. Therefore, it has to be that a person is not just like the Gemara says, that in the 4 days between Yom Kippur and Sukkot, the person is not just Oisik b'Sukkosik, but he's also Oisik b'Lulavoi. Why is it necessary the Lulav as well? Because the Lulav is about bringing this down in a Pnimius. I don't know if I mentioned this in the last mimer we were learning, but it says also somewhere the Rebbe brings down that the place in Min Chabad where we join the Esrig and the Lulav is at the bottom of the Lulav. That also signifies drawing it down to the lowest place. In addition to the fact that we bring the Lulav to all the different sides, the very fact that we join the Esrig at the bottom part of the Lulav, that shows that bringing it down, that's where the mitzvah takes place. In the lowest part, we have to bring it down to the lowest area, and all of that in the way of a pnimius. That's why we also touch it to our heart, because the heart is the mokim pnimi, it's the center of the body. It's not even like the head, which the head transcends and is higher than the body. True, it's intellect, and intellect brings things in the pnimius, but midas, the emotions, the heart, that's even more in pnimius. And also the liba poli chol shaifin, that from the heart circulates the blood throughout the entire body. So the idea of touching it to our heart also has to do with bringing it down in a pnimius. And all of this is because then we could reach and tap into the avodah of bli gvul, because you have this in the physical world brought down the bli gvul in the pnimius.